Hi, everybody. I'm here with my dear friend Surya. We have known each other for a while through AMMA, obviously. And I am very thrilled and honored that he took time to prepare a lecture for all of us and talk about Seva and the importance of the real guru and the guru path. He is not just a dear friend, but he's one of the most selfless people I've ever known, and he just doesn't talk. He walks the talk. So thank you, Surya, for taking the time to come and show us your genius in this lecture. So I'm gonna just have you do your magic, and thank you so much, really.
By Amma's grace, hopefully it'll turn out all right, and forgive me for any mistakes ahead of time. So Om Amriteshwaraya Namaha, Om Namah Shivaya, Namaste everyone. My name is Surya, and I'm a disciple of Mata Amritanandamayi, which translates as the mother who is the manifestation of the divine nectar of immortality, affectionately and simply known as Ammachi, which means revered mother, or even more simply as Amma, which means mother in South Indian languages like Malayalam and Tamil. It is really such an honor, privilege, and pleasure to speak to you today on the topic of the Guru and of Seva, selfless service. You're giving me an opportunity to think of my Guru, who I miss so dearly, and so many loving memories I have of my time and experiences with her over the last 31 years, this lifetime. So to begin, let's please close your eyes and relax your mind and breathe slowly and deeply and just absorb the vibrations of a few of the most sacred mantras that I'll chant for you for a second, and translations will follow afterwards. Nagaroradikam, 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 Shiva Shasanata, Shiva Shasanata, Shiva Shasanata, Shiva Shasanata. Om Jayamo Davalavakundanavatim Tejo Mahim Nastikim Snigdha Panga Vilokanim Magavatim Banda Smita Shri Mukhi Vatsalayam Ritavashanim Sumadaram Sankirtanam Lapani Shamangim Marusikta Suktim Amrita Nandatmikam Ishwari Om Amriteshwarye Namaha Om Amriteshwarye Namaha Om Amriteshwarye Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Deva Param Brahma Tasme Sri Gurave Namaha Tasme Sri Gurave Namaha Tasme Sri Gurave Namaha. That first mantra is from the Guru Gita, which is from the Skanda Purana, 182 shlokas of a conversation between Shiva and his wife and disciple Parvati, and the conversation of the best way to realize the self. And that mantra is I think it's verse 96, if I remember correctly. It states very plainly, there is nothing greater than the Guru. 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 This is the teaching of Shiva. 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 Driving it home. The second is a mantra that we say before we repeat a beautiful stotram that was composed by a disciple of AMMA, a very advanced Sanskrit disciple, he composed 108 names for AMMA. So he wrote this beautiful meditation shloka, which is always used when you do a stotram or namavali to a form of deity. And it translates as, we meditate upon the supreme goddess, Mata Amritanandamayi, who is robed in pure white raiment, the resplendent one, who is ever established in the supreme truth, whose benign glances beam with binding love, the revered one whose divine face beams with a soft, graceful smile, who incessantly showers the nectar of motherly love, who sings the glories of God most sweetly, whose limbs shine with the complexion of rain clouds and whose words are soaked in honey. The supreme goddess herself, who is the very embodiment of immortal bliss. I didn't expect to be hit with these waves of tears. It's interesting. And the last is again from the Guru Gita, translated that I'm sure many of you have heard before. The Guru is Brahma, the creator. The Guru is Vishnu, the sustainer. The Guru is the great God Maheshwara, a name for Shiva, the transformer or dissolver. The Guru is the supreme deity beyond all names and forms, and to that respected Guru we bow. So that's a good place to start. So let me talk about the concept of the Guru first, and then I'll share a bit of my own personal journey of finding my own Guru. The word Guru, as many of you know, is made up of two syllables, Gu and Ru. Gu is commonly translated as darkness or ignorance, and Ru is commonly translated as that which dispels that darkness or ignorance with the light of truth, with pure consciousness. So the Guru is the one that dispels our ignorance, our darkness. And if you have arrived at a place in your life that you have found someone that you can call Guru, a person whose light of being, of wisdom, of love, dispels the darkness of your ignorance, that you can surrender to as an absolute authority in your life, who you know loves you truly and unconditionally, with the deepest intimacy, free from attachment, who always has your best interests in mind, who needs nothing from you, being already complete themselves, and who you are safe putting your deepest trust in, then you are truly one of the luckiest people alive. One cannot just find one's Guru because one simply desires it. It doesn't work like that. There are many Gurus out there in the marketplace of Gurus, all different kinds of Gurus, levels of attainment. For every desire one has in life, there is someone to demonstrate the means to realize that desire. So our parents are our first Guru, of course. Then our school teachers, our coaches, our mentors, the experiences of life itself, and maybe initial spiritual teachers of various, grades and attainment. And to all of these Gurus, we should offer respect and bow and give thanks for helping us on our way, because that humility only ever serves us. I'm always humble like grass. Everyone can step on grass and it still just comes back up and it's happy to just be below everyone's feet. So finally, that desire to really know the truth of who we are, when we are fed up enough with the endless callings and desires of the world and see their empty folly to enough of a degree, then our Satguru, the teacher who awakens us to Sat, to truth or existence, to existence itself, that Guru then appears. The Guru, that Guru, this Satguru is the highest and ultimate Guru, and in truth is the vehicle through which God, Goddess, divinity, any name or form you want to put on that, manifests before us and plays and interacts with us right here on the physical plane and in our lives. That desire to find God or to find such a Guru leads us to make efforts to purify ourselves in whatever way we can. And that effort ripens one to receive the grace by which is the only means that the Guru appears. The true Guru arrives only when you are ripe and ready to receive the Guru's teachings. How could it be otherwise? As we would not be able to recognize our Guru, and it would be a waste. And this often happens initially. The Guru is truly God incarnate for the disciple, but the disciple has to dry the wood of his being through the longing to realize the truth of his or her essence and reality for the Guru, such to ignite and awaken this vision within the disciple. You have to be ready to be a disciple. And it is the disciple that makes the Guru. The Guru doesn't need the disciple. The disciple needs the Guru. So it is by realizing that the one in front of us is finally our Guru, and that happens in a natural way, then we actually can become a disciple. You know, we don't come to a Guru to change him or her, try to put them in our box, but to have that Guru change us. That's a very important point to remember, because initially we may not understand something that the Guru does, and we want to put them in our box, but they will never fit in our box, at least not permanently. And the more we can surrender to our Guru, which happens in a natural deepening process, like with any relationship, the more we will feel our Guru's personality grow inside of us until it is said one can't tell the two apart. Even so, we always hold ourselves lower than the Guru and reside at the Guru's feet, as we know they have given us that which we cannot be given any other way. But how do we find such a Guru? Well, how do you find a lover? Because the Guru is the ultimate, most intimate lover. It's exactly the same. When it's meant to happen, the miracle of the meeting happens. And that is just the beginning, actually, of an endless process of deepening. So in a sense, there's truly nothing for you to do, and there's nowhere for you to go searching to find your Guru, as your Guru is already looking for you and waiting for you to finally be ready. But by deepening your own inner work, by following a disciplined, focused life aimed at your spiritual goal as best you can, otherwise known as the yamas, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha yama from the Yoga Sutra, and the niyamas, tapa, swadhyaya, yeshvara, pranidhanani, kriya yoga. Tapas, which translates as austerity or spiritual efforts or sadhana to purify ourselves on all levels, and swadhyaya, which is self-study or the study of that which is sva. Sva is unborn. It is born of itself. And ishvara pranidhana, surrender to God, which is the cause and essence of our absolute, our existence. By this, we accomplish the yoga of spiritual action, kriya yoga. So all these things purify us and drawing us ever closer to that magical moment when we can meet our Guru. And don't take this as too heavy of a thing. You know, as we can only do our best from where we're at any given moment in time, and there is never enough purification that you can do to force the Guru's grace. But it is the sincerity of your actions, of your heart, that attracts the Guru right to us. And without even realizing it, the time comes. And sometimes you don't even realize it came until after it occurs. And this is really often the case. And it was really even the case with me in the moment when I met Amma. So let me share a little bit of my journey of how I arrived at my Guru's holy feet and finally realized who she was for me. You know, my journey this lifetime to Amma, my Satguru Devi, started in such a demonstrative way with the death of my mother at 9 years old. And the intense grief from the loss of my mom broke something in me. It took me a while to really kind of put that together as I grew up, but it broke my desire for the world and awakened a desire to know something which was beyond the body, really, you know, to know what little I knew of God and truth back then. And of course, I didn't realize it at the time, but my mother's death at such a young age was a powerful spiritual blessing for me and an absolute catalyst for my growth. And before my mom passed, I was really interested in school. I applied myself really hard. I was in some gifted program, etc. And after this, just something changed, and I really coasted for the rest of my scholastic career. I was smart enough to stay ahead, but I really did coast, and I was really more directed at just understanding what was beyond this regular reality, this regular world I saw around me. And first to the occult and the paranormal, and then through the philosophies of Taoism and Zen, that I was introduced to some studies in martial arts, where I first learned to meditate. And then in my first year of college at 16, I found the book Integral Hatha Yoga by Swami Satchidananda, a disciple of Swami Shivananda Saraswati, the great yoga teacher. And the yogic philosophy grabbed me kind of deeply, and I became very interested in it. And about 2 years later, when I was taking a break from college, I was living in New York City, and I read Autobiography of a Yogi. Interesting enough, while I was bartending in some really ratty dive bar in the East Village. And I knew that SRF was not my path, and I didn't feel any calling connection with Yogananda as my guru, but that book really awakened a connection to the tradition and to the Babaji, who was known by so many names over the millennia, and considered to be the yogi who watches over the hierarchy of yogis, if we believe in such a thing. And in that book, there's a quote from his disciple, Sri Sri Shama Charan Lahiri Mahashaya, who was his household disciple of the Mahamuni Babaji, who disseminated his teachings of Kriya Yoga to the world, especially to us householders, made it first available to us householders. And in the book, it says that if one just says the name of Babaji once with reverence, one gets an instant blessing from the master. So being without a guru at the time and without a mantra, I decided, well, I might as well just say that all the time. You know, if once you get a blessing, why don't I get the blessing all day long if I can? So I really made that a sadhana. Sometimes I have to say, really not exaggerating, I would chant that, you know, up to 16 hours a day. I'd walk around the city going, Babaji, 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 like this. And I had some other experiences that I won't get to in this talk with the Babaji in India, but needless to say, it was a connection. And then I never ever dreamed that great yogis came to New York City, much less the United States. I always thought I'd have to, you know, leave and go to the Himalaya to meet these great beings. And but suddenly in mid 1988, this flood of them appeared in my life. And I first was invited to meet this great yogi named Shiva Bala Yogi, who was a great, from a young boy, like Shiva appeared to him, and he did this intense tapas for 12 years of 23 hours a day of sitting. And I was invited to meet him at a private house in Brooklyn, and without me asking, he also initiated me into jhana yoga. You know, I didn't want to be initiated by anyone until I found my guru. You know, a lot of friends around me would meet every spiritual teacher that came to town and take their diksha, and it was the last thing I wanted to do. And it just leads to actually a lot of confusion. Not that there's anything wrong with any of these things, just saying, you know, it leads to confusion generally. But I adored the silence and the stillness that surrounded him and his beautiful smile, but he was not my guru. And I spent time with the Hare Krishnas, who I first met outside my first Grateful Dead concert that I didn't even go into because I was so enamored by the chanting. And for about a year or so, I lived close to this big temple in Brooklyn in New York. So I would visit them often, and I imbibed myself in the philosophy. It just didn't really work for me, though I chanted the Maha Mantra. I liked it, but it wasn't my path, and definitely was not my path. And then I spent time at the Siddha Yoga Ashram in New York City. I had attraction for Guru Mai and the Maha Kundalini Yoga path that was taught through Nityananda and Muktananda. Though I didn't really vibe with the whole kind of flavor of that ashram, and that culminated, despite me having a really beautiful experience with Guru Mai in a dream on where she gave me some Shaktipan on the astral plane. When I went to visit their ashram in upstate New York on a really hot summer's day, they didn't let me meet her because I was dressed in shorts and a t-shirt because it was 95 degrees out. So I realized that was not my guru. But I really sought out other legitimate teachers in the West of Kriya Yoga and other Kundalini Mahayoga lineages, because I was so convinced that that is my path. That's the path I'm supposed to walk down, which I have to say, that is not the way to approach spiritual life. You don't read something, get a concept, and think, oh, that's the highest path, that has to be my path. Just want to realize God in any way it comes out, and because your path will always be truly unique, and your guru will appear and give you your path. You don't have to be so concerned about this or that concept. But I still was for a long period of time. And I found some of these different teachers, and I met a teacher that was named Ashama, who's now known as Anandima, whose great guru Jain Yogi Madhusudan Das Ji from Gujarat was still in the body at 116 years old. He looked like a big Indian Santa Claus. And their lineage was one through Sri Rama and Hanumanji. But for some reason, I really wasn't attracted. I didn't get the Ram thing back then. And she offered to give me Shaktipat through her guru's padakams and said it was okay if I took it and I didn't look at them as my guru. So I said, okay, it seemed like, okay, I finally want to get this thing. I want my Kundalini awakened finally, right? Because that's the great thing to do. Needless to say, it was actually already started to be awakened when my mom died, when that intense grief of life awakens your Kundalini. And it was something definitely very profound and powerful, but I still, again, didn't feel that deep connection with either of them. And I did the practices for some months deeply until that summer in 1990, a friend in the kind of small satsang we had for that guru in New York told me that there was a great saint coming to the Universalist Church on the Upper West Side near where I was living, who said to be an incarnation of the Divine Mother. And I said, yes, please. And on July 6, 1990, which unbeknownst to me at the time happened to be the day of Guru Purnima, the full moon day celebrating the Guru, that's when I met Amma. I don't know why she didn't let me meet her the first 3 years. I'm still a little bit mad at her about that, but anyway. My first thought upon seeing her across the room was, oh my God, I'm looking at God. That really was my very first thought. And the only thing I can really remember about my first hugging darshan, and there was very small, these programs were just a few hundred people back then, was just melting in pure bliss. I was just like in a stupor of bliss. I came out like she blasted my third eye open. Back then she had the hugs were a little longer, and she dipped her finger in the sandalwood of everyone would come, and she would just blast you in the third eye. So she just blasted me. I remember coming up and being like, I was so drunk with bliss. I was like, I never experienced anything like that before. And I left that evening I was actually going to a weekend Guru Purnima retreat with Ashrama, but all I could think about that night was Amma. And I heard all of these kind of like, I was in this really rarefied state that was not usual for me. And I heard these like kind of celestial sounds, and it was a very interesting type of thing. And I just couldn't wait to get back to Amma. And I did get back to her 2 days later for the last program, which was what we call a Devi Baba program, where Amma kind of shows her oneness with the goddess and with divinity in a much more pronounced way. Amma is so humble that she just likes to appear like a simple little villager girl, but she's not. So she shows her oneness with Devi. She invokes Devi with mantra, and she does a big puja in the beginning, and then she comes out in a beautiful sari wearing a crown. And back then her whole body would shake the entire time, and she glows blue, like similar to how you see in this picture, at least in the eyes of some of us. Every time at the start of Devi Baba, Amma was just blue. Her whole face changes. I can't really explain it any more than that. And but I didn't know if Amma was my guru yet, but I knew that she was my mother, and there was some really ancient connection there. So I decided to take a mantra from her, which she only gives on the Devi Baba. And when they asked me what form of God I wanted a mantra for, I was like, I don't know. And they're like, well, what moves you, into like a connection of divine love? And I said, well, instantly said Amma. So I said, okay. So they let me, I was allowed to take a mantra for Amma's form, in the form of the teacher. And she graciously implanted that seed of that mantra into my ear and my consciousness, where then after it would grow, as that's how it works. And you might, if you've ever been to Amma's programs, the Devi Baba program, you might know at the end, she showers all the devotees in flower petals. She has them all line up, and you do this kind of big circle in front of the stage, and she gives you one more blast. She wanted one more chance to connect with Amma. And right away, I felt, moved to help serve. I forgot to say, actually for a couple of years, that period of like maybe 18 to 20 or 21 when I met Amma, I was really distraught about not having a guru. I knew that without a guru, I would go nowhere in my spiritual life. But I could not for the life of me figure out how to find my guru, where my guru was. And literally sometimes I was crying, I was banging my head, not too hard, but banging my head on the floor, just really depressed about not being able to find my guru. And then, so to continue, so right away I felt moved to help serve, like after I had gone through to help, move the line along, as I saw some other people doing, which I still do that Seva to this day. And she right away, she even gave me a little scolding. She like said to me, like, not to move them too fast or push them. Like right away, we went right into that Guru Shisha Bhava, like from the first, thing. And I was like, that actually right away shocked me, but it really pleased me. And after the program was over, it's not like it is today, when hundreds of people sit there and wait for Amma to come out and wait to help clean up. There was nobody in the hall. There was a few disciples, like let's say the stage is at one end and about 500 yards away is the door, and there's a few people waiting at the door, and there was, I don't know if there was anyone even helping to clean up. I can't remember. All I know is that I was so absolutely ecstatic that I could perform some selfless service to a being like this. Like there was flower petals all over the ground and I knew they had to be cleaned up. Maybe someone told me, I don't remember. So I really was totally absorbed in cleaning up these flower petals, completely blissed out, thinking of Amma, repeating my mantra. And all of a sudden, I feel somebody came up to me and starts rubbing my arm really affectionately. And it completely shocked me. I was like, who could possibly, this is my thought process, who could possibly be coming up and rubbing me so affectionately? And I knew it was a woman. And I'm thinking, well, here I am, finally brahmachari for the day, at least here at 21 years old at the program. And what woman is rubbing me so sweetly in this place in Amma's program? And I looked up and it was Amma, of course. And there's nobody even close to us, just me and Amma. And instantly our eyes locked and I heard Amma, I heard her voice inside me, which has only happened maybe 2 or 3 times in all the 31 years in this kind of a way. She very clearly said, son, you were one-pointedly serving the Guru. So of course the Guru had to come to you. And then I looked down, I saw Amma's feet, and I prostrated myself before Amma's feet, and then she kind of floatedly walked away to the front of the room where the other 3 people were waiting for her, and she went off. And I didn't realize it then, but that was the moment that she really hooked me. And that moment really changed my life, and it set up the principle that's guided my life and my relationship with Amma all these years, which is the honor, privilege, and pleasure of doing Seva to her. There is truly nothing better, and there's no time I feel my life is more useful than when I am in service to Amma and my Guru in any way I can be. And there's nothing more rewarding in life. And it is through that service that her grace flows. And that is just an extra bonus, because what you get from the Guru is not what drives you to serve the Guru. You do that out of pure love. The grace that you get is just a pure bonus. So truthfully, it took me about another 5 years to really surrender to Amma as my Guru. I had a bunch of other practices. I had a couple of mantras, different teachers. I was totally confused about how to juggle and manage all that stuff. I had contacted a Kriya Yoga guru who was living in a small house in San Diego, who claimed to be a disciple of the Babaji. I found his book in the New York Public Library on the Babaji. That's how I found him in the first place. And I even moved to San Diego to try to get initiated from him. He gave me a lot of time on the phone with satsang and scolding me and answering all these silly questions that I had about concepts back then. But he would never actually accept me as his disciple. And he was a very harsh, strict guru. And I remember I had a darshan with Amma, and I told her about this fact that he wouldn't accept me. And Amma goes, oh, Surya, I will be your guru. Amma will be your guru. And I said something really silly like, oh, that's okay, Amma. You don't even teach pranayama. Because of course I had these ideas that this is the things that I had to have, to reach enlightenment, to realize God. Of course I had to, do all these intense, specific yogic practices, which are very, powerful, but it's not how it works. Anyway, I was so caught up in that, that what my path didn't tell, that I was just steeped in this backwards thinking. And she laughed really hard, and she turned to Swami Ramakrishna, saying next to her and said, can you believe this boy? I just offered to be his guru, and he said no. Can you imagine, like, here's the goddess of the entire universe, the greatest guru you could ever have, offering to be your guru, and you're like, nah, I turn it down because, I'm not, I don't think that you teach this or that technique, which of course Amma teaches whatever is needed for that disciple. And I've seen that numerous times over the years. And once I asked Amma, because I was still kind of having this conflict, like, should I keep coming to the programs, her programs, because I couldn't call her guru yet. And it was bothering me. I was really being honest about it. Like, I felt this connection. I felt she was my mother, but I still didn't, that word wasn't there for me yet. And Amma just smiled and he said, Surya, you keep coming. Amma doesn't care about these things. You just keep coming. Because of course she knew that she was already my guru, because she's been my guru for many lifetimes. And like Krishna said to Arjuna in the beginning of chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most glorious, famous, and consummate discourses between a guru and disciple, if you don't read it yourself, in verse 5. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani tarva chajuna Tanyaham Veda sarvani Natvam Veda parantapa, which translates as, the Supreme Lord said, both you and I have had many births, O Arjuna. You have forgotten them, while I remember them all, O Parantapa, which is a name for Arjuna, meaning the scorcher of foes. So we may forget the Guru, but the Guru never forgets us. A Guru is always watching over us, waiting for the right time to appear and guide us to that goal. Also in the Bhagavad Gita, that chapter 4 is titled by some as Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of knowledge and the disciplines of action. So in verse 34 it says, Tatveri pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninastatpadashanaha, which translates as, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth themselves. So that is how you approach the spiritual path. You find a teacher and you humble yourself. You try to help them with whatever their work is, and through that giving, the natural affection of the Guru will come to you, and you will have, your relationship will deepen. We bow our head to the Guru, because when we do so, it's easier for the Guru Shakti to flow into us. From the hands and the feet of the Guru, the extremities, the physical extremities of the Guru, their energy flows, their Shakti. And this Shakti isn't just their body's energy, it's the energy of the true Guru, the unbroken parampara lineage of Gurus of our Guru. Unless your Guru happens to be an avatar that came down in that perfect state, like Amma or Nandamai Mother, there's exceptions, but normally there's a lineage of Gurus, a parampara, and leading all the way back to the first Guru, Adi Guru. And that pours forth from the Guru's feet or the Guru's hands touch into our being through our crown, Sahasrara Chakra, and pours down that central channel, our Sushumna Nadi, to awaken our Kundalini Shakti, the sleeping spark of our divinity, resting in our Muladhara Chakra, which is that holy place. It literally translates as a holy place or supporting container for our root. Mula, as you know, is root, and Dada is that which holds. So what is our root if not pure divinity? And the Shakti of the Guru is pure and untainted, and it is in an unbroken lineage, regardless of the spiritual attainment of our personal Guru. Some of us, that have a Guru, let's say that's, I don't want to get technical about these things, but that is not an avatar. Maybe not every Guru is 100% fully cooked, but that doesn't mean that the lineage Shakti isn't there, and that lineage Shakti in truth is the thing that guides and teaches us. So regardless of the spiritual attainment of a Guru, it's pure and untainted. And a Guru is kind of like a kum, a holder of the Shakti of that lineage of divinity within himself or herself. And that Shakti is pure Satchidananda, truth, existence, consciousness, and bliss. So in truth, that Shakti is the one original Shakti, the Adi Shakti, the energy of the Big Bang. So little by little, we humble ourselves before the Guru, and we grow in our Guru's wisdom and teaching and light and love. Little by our receptivity, the Guru Shakti dissolves our ego, all of our false concepts about who we think we are, of who we think we should be and have been and will be, and molds us to become the Guru within us, our true self. And one of the real blessings of a living guru especially is because the guru operates from a place that is beyond the mind, that is beyond time and space. They live in a perpetual state of spontaneity. And it is from this place that your guru operates, even if they're unaware. So often I would ask Amma a question, and in my mind, I would think, well, okay, she's going to like choose like one of a couple of answers that I would already have pre-thought of in my mind. And then her answer would be something else entirely. It would be something from left field that I couldn't possibly have thought of or wrap my mind around. And just that spontaneous consciousness of something that was beyond my mind would stop my mind right then. And in that moment, there was nothing but my guru and pure expansiveness and pure awareness. And these touches of the state, these experiences serve to deepen our love and our faith and devotion in our guru and our connection to our guru. Excuse me. And this manifests in a myriad of flavors in the lives of all of us. These spontaneous interactions. This is the real benefit of having a living guru. Rather than projecting discipleship onto a guru that's no longer in the body when we can't have those interactions. It's too easy of a way out. Not that I'm criticizing anybody's choices or path, just stating something obvious. So, you know, I remember many years back, there was a quote from Amma on one of the walls of the snack tent at her ashram, San Ramon. And it said something to the effect of, as a disciple matures, he no longer wants to take from the guru, he only wants to give to the guru. And I really took that to heart, and I really have tried to embody that and aspire to that slowly, and slowly we mature and we don't want to take from the guru. Slowly, I didn't want to take anything from Amma. And it took time. These things are, you know, they come in layers and layers and layers, and then you self-examine yourself. And I would do this, and I would see all the different ways that I succumbed to taking from Amma. Like, did I have to go for that little extra darshan? Was that really necessary? Did I really have to put myself on Amma's path and say, hey, Amma, look at me? You know, like, you realize after a while, no, like, you don't have to. And actually, the better thing is when you don't do it, the better blessings come. Amma comes looking for you. It's like the more I would let go of each of these things, and when I would pull back, this sacrifice born out of love, just wanting to be like, I don't have to burden Amma every day with darshan and this and that, then Amma would come even more towards me. She would give me something even more special. I remember, like, the example of this, I remember some years back, I was helping with security Seva at our programs in Boston on the summer tour, and I was asked if I would go wait up at the hotel for Amma to arrive back there, which is about a 10-minute walk up from where the programs were. And very car ride. And you know, this night was at this point, it was a one program night where Amma would sing and dance at the end of the program, and she'd been giving darshan all day nonstop for like 12 or 13 hours. So I really, you know, I was happy to make that sacrifice and not have one of the local devotees miss out on that beautiful time with Amma of those special 2 or 3 bhajans she does at the end of that day, and dancing around, kind of going into bliss. And so I've seen it many, many times, and it's nice for the local people to not miss out on that. So of course I was happy to do that. And I waited up at the hotel by myself. I think there was one other devotee by the elevator, waiting to get the elevator. And then the car pulled up, driven by just the tour coordinator. And there was no one even there to open Amma's door. So of course I went there and opened Amma's door, but then I made real efforts to pull back and not attract any attention, not try to go to Amma and have her have touch me. She'd already given 13 hours of darshan. She didn't need to spend another minute on Surya, you know, sitting there, you know. So I pulled all the way back. But of course, I'm still looking at Amma, and I have just my hands folded like this. And then, of course, what does Amma do? She comes towards me, and then she grabs my hands, my folded hands like this. She grabs them, and she goes, Om Suryaya Namaha. You know, and it was really sweet. She gave me this really sweet smile, and probably rubbed my shoulder, and then I walked her to the elevator where someone was waiting, and let that person take her up to the room. So this, you know, this really exemplifies the glory of the Guru and how the spiritual truth works. You know, the more we don't want to take from God or the Guru, the more the Guru or God wants to give to us. So as we mature, this is what happens. Because we see the Guru's always giving to us. Amma's always giving us darshan. That hug is just the most gross level of manifestation because we're too thick to get that point. The point is God and Guru is always pouring it down. We have to open up our receptivity. It's not that they're not always giving. So getting into Seva. Seva, or selfless service, is an expression of love. It gives us the chance and the vehicle to demonstrate and express the intensity of our love by performing an action rather than a worker who always has some expectation of something in return. The highest Seva is when we see an opportunity to demonstrate our love, and without being told or asked, we go out of our way to add value to another person's life. It's really important to distinguish between Seva and Karma Yoga because they're not the same thing. The word yoga is defined by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra as chitta vritti nirodha, the cessation and prohibition of any change or modification in the objects of consciousness, the mind stuff. So any action which induces a state of pure absorption in consciousness is termed karma yoga. So traditionally, the Vedas contain two parts, jnana kanda and karma kanda. The jnana kanda are the prescriptions of wisdom, proclamations of the soul's inherent unity with divinity, like tat tvamasi, like that, the great mahavakyas. The karma kanda are the practices by which that realization can be attained or realized. So they are specifically addressed as siddhantacharya, behaviors enjoined by scripture, which fall into some categories: worship, recitation of scriptures, sacred fire ceremonies, music, dance, philosophical discourse, and offering. These are at least 7 ways of describing them. And these 7 kinds of action have the capacity to stop the modifications of the objects of consciousness. Therefore, these actions may be termed karma yoga. Performing seva to our guru, not because we have to, but as a pure expression of love, undoubtedly earns us the privilege of learning from our guru and practicing more karma yoga. And when our monkey minds stop creating these modifications of the objects of consciousness, then we too realize the soul's inherent unity with divinity. We become one with the Guru. We become one with supreme divinity. And that principle of the Guru is what takes us along the path. So I highly recommend that you take this in and you jump at any and every opportunity to do seva, selfless service, to anyone you can. These opportunities pop up all the time. There's never a downside. There's only an upside. And this practice will itself lead you to the ultimate goal. It is simply that easy. And even if you don't have the sharp intellect to study the scriptures or the ability to perform intense yogic or tantric practices, just this devotion and this desire to serve will bring all knowledge that you need to you. And this has been demonstrated time and time again over the ages, all the time. There would be groups of disciples around, and the simple villager who couldn't read Sanskrit, who couldn't understand, the Guru would ask him a question and he would give this beautiful satsang on this really specific point, Amma stopped going to school in grade school, and still she knows, every fine point of every little thing that could be said in the scriptures. Not really a fair comparison, but just say. So the spiritual practice of seva alone has the capacity to bring the fruits of all other practices. So serve any way and every way you can always. Amma has said that the real seva begins when you are so tired that you feel you can't do anything anymore, and yet you do. So let me share one last sweet story with Amma regarding seva. This was the very early 90s, I think 92 or 93, and I think we had done our usual daytime program at some hall somewhere in the Boston area, I think it was. And a few of us were out helping to pack the truck. There weren't that many of us back then that did anything. We did everything. And only one of us, a guy named Ramana, had been there packing the truck all through the program, as we needed to drive somewhere else to set up for the evening program. I think back then, Amma even gave us a darshan every program. And so, of course, we all die for Amma's darshan anytime we can get with Amma. So we all went, but Ramana didn't. He stayed and he was packing the truck. And when the program finished, then the rest of us came out and helped to finish up. And so Amma knew that he hadn't come. So Amma came out to the truck, right, where we were packing up. And she called to Ramana to come to her. And he's inside the truck and he's all sweaty and dirty. And he's like, no, Amma, please, I'm all dirty. And Amma said, come here, Ramana, Sister come, and then she said something that we didn't understand in Malayalam, and it sounded like she said something to Ramana about shaving because he was kind of scruffy. We thought that maybe Amma hugged him and scratched her face a little bit and said, oh, that he, needed to shave. Like she said, Sheva, Sheva. But no, she was saying Seva, Seva. And in fact, she specifically said, the sweat of Seva is the mother's tears. And truly it is. And that really stuck with me for the rest of my life. So I think that's a good place to conclude. I hope that what I've shared has touched and inspired you in some way. Forgive me if there were any mistakes or if I rambled on too much about anything. And if there's any questions, I don't know if anyone's even here, I'm happy to take them. And if not, we can end with some closing mantras.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I was half your lecture in tears, thinking of AMMA, and then also thinking about the tours, and the times that we take, because they're not familiar. I haven't really shared much of these tour experiences with our students in the teacher training, but we take 8 weeks when it's the United States tour, and like 6 when it's Europe, and even longer when it's India, and we serve and we help put all these programs together for AMMA to give darshan, which is the hug that she gives people, and she sits for hours and hours and hours and hours, and there's something so magical that even we're so tired because we get hardly any sleep, we're eating like rice and lentils, which to me, I'm bloated all the time in the tour. And even then, like you're still going because there's this greater love and energy in there that keeps you going. And everything that you said, I really relate, from finding the guru to serving, because I wasn't brought up in that culture of serving selflessly until I met AMMA, and truly love is the only thing that has made me become like a hardcore Sevite, and then do the karma yoga programs and really dive into it because of the love of the guru that has awakened in me, in us, in all of us. And so thank you for everything that you shared with us. And there were a couple of concepts that I don't think they know by heart. So when you were mentioning Shaktipat, and shouldn't be too elaborate, but it will be nice to share with them what that is. And then also Diksha, because they were not familiar. Darshan, I already told them, is Amma's hug. It is like any guru offering something to a student or someone that comes to visit, in an exchange of energy. And that's really broad, right? Like there's much more to it. But I feel like Shaktipat and Diksha will be interesting concepts for them to learn from you.
Sure. So Shaktipat is a word that you see in certain lineages of yoga that just means the transference of Shakti, right? The transference. It's traditionally the guru in those lineages of not Yogi Bhajan's Kundalini yoga, but like from various, like in Siddha yoga, and some other lineages like that. It's the transfer of the guru's energy to awaken that energy in the disciple. Like it cuts through the gross level to awaken even partially the energy of the disciple sitting in that root chakra, to awaken us to start the process. And really, that any time that we get an initiation from the guru, whether they call it Shaktipat or not, that occurs. And it said that the guru can awaken us with a look, with a word, with a thought, or with a touch. And you'll see AMMA does all of those, and all real gurus do those things, they in different ways. And it's just a way of, our being is generally just steeped in the things of the world, the things of our senses, and the faculties which drive those senses. So when the guru comes, that energy is transferred. And diksha is it means initiation, right? It means initiation, but it can be formal and it can be informal, and there are many levels of initiation that can occur. And we tend to think of these things because of our backgrounds in this kind of linear and black and white process, and there is something to those things. There is something to that first moment of diksha in your lifetime. it is, but then you'll have other moments of deeper diksha and things. So and again, like even you know these things even occur in more minor forms, like whatever we're doing, if we if we sign up for this training, just entering it is a type of diksha, an initiation into a greater body of knowledge that we hadn't been familiar with before this time. So and that transference, Shaktipat doesn't have to be only the formal thing of our Satguru awakening our Kundalini. It's just when the world, our activities are run by energy, right? Without Shakti, nothing happens. We're Shava. Shiva becomes, he's not a corpse only because of Shakti. That E is the seed syllable of the Divine Mother. So only by that Shakti does anything happen. So, only by transferring energy does the teacher give something to the student. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything.
So
Yeah,
nice. It's so nice. It's a privilege, actually. It's sweet.
And eventually we'll invite you, if you have the time and the will, to talk to us about your experience in the cremation grounds and how that changed your life. But that is a big story for another time. And just thank you, because even now, you're doing seva. As you teach this lecture, you are doing seva. So thank you so much. And just for everybody, you have been an inspiration for me, because I see you work and work and work selflessly. And, those tours are always, they're so rewarding, but we're so tired. And she's even more tired, hogging all these people, listening to all these people in so much pain, spreading love, opening these public programs for people to learn how to meditate. And the rewarding is seeing the people that come and cry so hard, or they're in so much pain, and then after Amma gives them some love, they're totally changed. And even and love is what's moving all of this, because she's really not saying like, give me your credit card, right? It's pure love.
Yeah, the real gurus are that we rarely get to experience them. So even if you meet Amma and she's not your guru, I highly recommend that you have Amma's darshan and you just in that presence. And everything. First of all, Sukrita is a powerhouse herself. I know her by her spiritual name, and she's a powerhouse herself. And really, we don't even notice. I don't know, people say I work hard. I always think I don't work hard, that I've gotten lazy over the years compared to the early days. And everything's so compartmentalized now, and it wasn't like that in the beginning. And so it's just all it's all I can do. It's always such a pleasure. I don't even notice. And it's Amma's energy carries us through all of that. That's how I can sleep 4 hours or sub 4 hours a night during these programs, day after day. And like she said, barely eating, and just engaging in whatever is needed. So it's just a privilege, to do seva is no different than meditation. And truthfully, to know of these spiritual practices and to do them, it's just such a privilege. It's not a chore, it's a privilege and a pleasure. And I I was not expecting all of that emotion to come to me starting from the very first chant. And because it didn't happen while I was writing the lecture or anything in that way. And I was like, wow. And I'm like, am I just going to cry through this whole lecture? And I'm not one to cry that much, but what a blessing when it comes to it. It was actually so cleansing for my heart, and just felt so good. I felt Amma's presence so much. So thank you.
The sun cries when it's talking about Amma. So thank you so much, really. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you
my
for
pleasure.
everything.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Well, let's end with three an Om and 3 repetitions of the Loka mantra. We need world peace in a bad way right now. So
please.
Just affirming that all beings everywhere be happy and free.
Yes, please.
Om Loka Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Jai Guru, Jai Amma, Jai Amma. Blessings to all of you.
Thank you.
Jai Amma.